Today on Sugar Spun Run, I'll be showing you how to make my favorite lemon blueberry cake. Hey Sugar Spun Bakers, Sam here, and today I am so excited to be sharing another carefully tested, well-researched, and perfected recipe. Today's lemon blueberry cake is by popular demand. It features a super soft lemon cake filled with blueberries and my simple lemon frosting that I just shared the other day. Let's go ahead and get started by preheating our oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Now for today's recipe, you're going to need a large mixing bowl, and we're going to be combining 3 cups of all-purpose flour, 1.5 cups of granulated sugar, 1 tablespoon of cornstarch, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Now we'll just whisk these ingredients together until they're nicely combined. Now the next thing you're going to need for today's recipe is 1/2 cup of softened unsalted butter. Now we're going to be using the reverse creaming method to make today's cake extra soft and plush. So what that means is we are going to need an electric mixer. You could use your stand mixer, but today I'm just going to be using my electric hand mixer. And we are going to add the butter 1 tablespoon at a time, stirring after each addition and not adding the next tablespoon of butter until the first one has been well combined. Now, most cakes are made with the traditional creaming method where you cream together the butter and the sugar. Today we are going to be adding the butter 1 tablespoon at a time, which helps coat the flour strands. It just makes a really soft, plush cake with a nice tight crumb. Now when you're finished adding all of your butter, your mixture will still be pretty dry and it will look a little bit sandy. As you can see here, I want you to get a look at that. For today's recipe, I'm not using just butter. While butter is giving us a great flavor, I also like to make sure this cake is nice and moist, so I'm also going to be using 1/2 cup of canola oil. You could also use vegetable oil or any neutral cooking oil instead. Now with the mixer on low speed, we're just going to drizzle this in until it's completely combined. All right, now once you've added all of the oil, the mixture's still going to be pretty dry and crumbly. I like to make sure that there's no visible white bits of flour remaining. I'll mix this one a little bit more. Now we can set this aside and we're going to need a separate container. I'm going to be using a large measuring cup to combine the rest of our wet ingredients. We'll start with 3/4 cup of buttermilk. And to get a really nicely flavored lemon cake without using artificial flavoring, we are going to be using both lemon zest and fresh squeezed lemon juice. Now you want to zest your lemon before you squeeze it, otherwise it's going to be very difficult to zest it. So I'm just going to go ahead and grate this. And one thing that I want to mention to you is anytime you're grating a lemon or an orange, you want to avoid hitting the pith. Now what that is that's the papery white layer. Let me see if I can get down to that and show you what I'm talking about. So I'm not sure if you can see, but the part where it starts to get bright white, that part, you don't want to grate that into your cake because what you'll end up with is a cake that's bitter rather than one that has that appropriately sour, tart lemon taste. So just don't grate past that, or don't grate into that. Now you want 2 tablespoons of lemon zest, so I have this here. When I'm measuring it, I just like to gently pack it into the tablespoon. I'll add that right in with my buttermilk. And just have a little extra here that can go in as well. Next, you'll need 1/4 cup freshly squeezed lemon juice. I'm not sure how many lemons I'll need to get this. I'm actually getting a lot more juice out of this lemon than I thought, so it looks like I'll be able to get that whole 1/4 cup out of 1 lemon, which is pretty great actually. We'll add this in with our buttermilk and our zest. And we're also going to be adding 4 large eggs. Just like to crack these in a separate bowl or separate container. Add them into the buttermilk as well. And finally, we'll be adding 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract. This recipe just uses a very small amount of vanilla extract because I don't want it to overpower the lemon flavor. Now we'll whisk these ingredients together until they're nicely combined. It should turn a nice yellowish color, and really what you want to do is make sure that the eggs are well broken up. And then we can slowly stir this in to our mixture from earlier. Now you'll just want to continue to mix this until you have a nice smooth batter. This is looking pretty good. I always like to scrape the sides and bottom of the bowl just to make sure I didn't miss anything. All right, next you need your blueberries. We're going to be using 2.5 cups of blueberries, and we'll just add those in, and I'm just going to use a spatula to fold them in until they're nicely combined into the batter. Now today we are making a 3-layer cake, so you're going to need 3 8-inch cake pans. And I have greased the sides of these with a little bit of baking spray for extra security to make sure that the cakes don't stick to the pan. I always like to use a round of parchment paper nestled in the bottom of the pan. That pretty much guarantees your cake's not going to stick. All right, now we'll just divide this batter evenly into the 3 pans. And as you can see, this is a pretty thick batter, so I just like to smooth the top so that it's in a nice even layer in the pan. All right, now we'll take these over to our 350-degree Fahrenheit preheated oven, where they're going to need to bake for about 30 minutes. Now, if all 3 pans do not fit in your oven at once, it's fine to leave one on the counter. If your oven doesn't bake evenly, make sure you check the cakes a little bit early and check each one individually to see if it's done, because most ovens do not cook evenly. The one in the back could be done, the one in the front could still be raw, so watch out for that. All right, after 30 minutes, we'll want to check that our cakes are done. I'm just going to show you 2 of them that I have here right now. The best way to check that this cake is done is just to lightly touch it. If the cake gently springs back, that's a good sign it's finished. If it starts to sink in, you want to put it back in the oven. I also always like to use the toothpick test, where a toothpick inserted in the center of the cake should come out clean, or preferably it should come out with a few moist crumbs. We're going to let these cakes cool in their pans for about 10 to 15 minutes, and then I like to take a butter knife and run it along the edge of the cake just to loosen the cake from the pan in case our baking spray didn't work and just in case they stuck. And then we'll carefully invert each cake layer onto a cooling rack so it can cool completely. Once the cakes have cooled completely, then you can go ahead and decorate them with whatever frosting you would like, but I would like to highly recommend you use my lemon frosting recipe that I just shared earlier this week. It's a super simple frosting, but it has a rich lemon flavor. I think you're going to love it, and that's what we're using today. I'll make sure to link to that so you can head over to that recipe if you'd like. And I just use a thin layer of frosting between each cake layer. If you'd like, you can certainly level each cake before assembling it. It helps make sure that your cake stacks really nicely. Otherwise, it may be a little bit rounded when you've finished icing it. And for this cake, I like to do, it's not completely a naked layer of frosting, but it's a thin layer of frosting on the outside. I like to have a little bit of the cake layers and a little bit of the blueberries shine through when the cake's finished. All right, now all that's left to do is dig in. Let's go ahead and cut a slice. And that is how you make my favorite lemon blueberry cake. I really hope you guys enjoyed today's recipe, and if you tried this one out, please leave me a comment and let me know what you think. I always love hearing from you. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. So soft.